Sixer Nation, I have missed you. It has been 3 weeks since the season ended. Not that much going on in Sixers world, so we've been live streaming other playoff series and games, watching all of the chaotic endings, so be sure to tune in. It's been a lot of fun. But today we finally have a bit of a Sixers news dump as the arena is changing its name. One executive staying in Philadelphia could have huge impacts down the road. And we have comments from Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and more that you do not want to miss. All that and more, we'll get into it all, but welcome into Philly Take with RB. We started off with probably the most impactful event of this upcoming offseason, and we are, 5 days away from the NBA draft lottery. And not to overstate the importance here, not to just kind of embellish it a bit, but ladies and gentlemen, the whole future could depend on this. It is not every year that you get to select a top 6 talent, a guy who can be a day one player, who can be injected right into the lineup. The Sixers have not picked this high in a long time. And when you draft this high, I mean, think about the players over the last 5 years that have been drafted in the top 6. A lot of them end up being superstars. So the Sixers obviously need to keep this pick for more reasons than I can explain right now. But it could really decide a lot. Like, even with the health situation of Joel Embiid and Paul George and these guys, if you get a top 6 talent, I mean, now you're talking. So this is going to be huge. And here are the percentage odds of each draft pick slot for the Sixers to try to get. So overall, about 64%. And yeah, the pressure's on, man. They have to find a way to get it. We'll see what happens with the ping pong balls. Also, coming out yesterday, the Wells Fargo Center is now being renamed the Xfinity Mobile Center, effective September 1st, 2025, and that will stand through the 2031 season. That is when the Sixers are projected to get their new arena, and the Sixers and Flyers are now playing at the Xfinity Mobile Center. I'm pretty sure they have something, maybe it's the radio, the Xfinity Mobile Lounge, or whatever it is. I mean, this name is not doing much for me. I probably will still refer to it as the Wells Fargo Center. I wish they called it the Xfinity Center rather than the Xfinity Mobile Center. Like, I just don't like that, and it just doesn't do much for me. What do you think about it? Let me know down below. If I had to rate this, I'd probably give it like a 3 out of a 10, but let me know your thoughts down below. Now, one piece of interesting news that could shape the future of this team. Sixers general manager Elton Brand has withdrawn from Atlanta Hawks president of basketball ops search. Brand played for the Hawks and holds strong relationships within the franchise, but he is staying with Philly for an important offseason. Now, I've said this many times over the years. I don't know why Elton Brand has consistently remained here. I mean, he was essentially demoted from his job, and really, Daryl Morey calls the shots. Like, what does Elton Brand even do? I don't know. And it's interesting that Brand has pulled his name out of this search. Is it because Elton Brand can see himself becoming the GM and then the president of basketball ops of the Sixers if Daryl Morey is fired after next season? Brian Windhorst said that Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse have the hottest seats coming into next season. I think that's probably a given already. But at the end of the day, if they start off bad next year, heads are going to turn. Does Elton Brand think that is a more likely route to finally becoming a president of basketball ops rather than Daryl Morey? Like, does Elton Brand think he's going to finally be back and call the shots again? Which is crazy to think about. You know, I liked Elton Brand's approach at first. He was very aggressive, but then he made some really bad decisions. So I think this would be a disaster for the Sixers if they ended up bringing Elton Brand back up to be the president. But let me know your thoughts down below. Also, we have heard that Bobby Jackson, assistant coach last year under Nick Nurse's staff, is going back to Sacramento. He spent a number of years there, and he has a relationship with Doug Christie, who is now the full-time coach of the Sacramento Kings. So Bobby Jackson will leave. We already heard that Nick Nurse is likely to have new assistants this year, so we'll see who those are. One more thing, former Sixer Buddy Hield is going absolutely insane. We've been live streaming these games. He has 14 threes made over the last 2 games. I believe that's the most in any 2-game stretch in a playoff game or 2 games in a long time. And it's just crazy to see the on and off switch of Buddy Hield. I wish he was able to do this with the Sixers. Maybe he wasn't utilized correctly, but he also stunk up the joint. It's just typical Sixers fashion where a guy goes to a different team and he starts to excel. Even yesterday, in game 1 on the road where Steph Curry goes out. He's out for the next week. And Buddy Hield goes from starting the game off with the wrong shorts on with 2 points in the first half, no field goals made. And then he drops, I believe, 22 in the second half. It's just a really crazy flip for Buddy Hield, but he has been an integral part. He had 33 points in a game 7 in the first round. So I'm happy for Buddy Hield. But again, the Sixers curse strikes. Now, speaking of the Sixers and the guys that are still here, let's talk about Tyrese Maxey. He was at the Kentucky Derby, and an interviewer came up and asked him about the Sixers, gave a couple thoughts on the fan base, things like that. But here's the important quote. He says, "We're sorry for our season this year, but it'll be okay. We'll bounce back stronger." And then they asked him why, and he said, because of Joel Embiid. Now, again, I wouldn't expect Tyrese Maxey to just talk about himself. He's not that type of guy where he's like, I'm going to lead this team back to the charge. I'm going to do this. But he seems pretty confident that Joel Embiid will come back after his surgery, which he's already had, and no update, of course, in typical Sixers fashion. But Tyrese Maxey believes that the gang will come back together next year. They'll be better. They'll be more efficient. And I'm going to talk more about that as we get into the next couple of weeks. But Tyrese Maxey seems dedicated and focused, and the Sixers' overall mentality is that they're treating this like it was just an outlier year. I don't know if I necessarily agree. The draft pick would obviously help, but Maxey, PG, and B, they need to do as much as they can this offseason and put in as much work to not get embarrassed next year. Like, look at the teams that are excelling in the playoffs. Look at what they've done. I said for the last several weeks that these playoffs are going to be a telltale, right? Can you be too young and get into the playoffs and make a deep run, right? We saw the Rockets get bounced in the first round, but maybe OKC can go all the way. Look at what Boston's doing. Look at what the Pacers are doing. The Sixers, Daryl Morey, they really need to study how these other teams are building rosters, and Daryl Morey has been reluctant to try anything else. He is still very adamant on we're going to go with the 3-star model. Don't know if that can work. It's going to take a lot of luck for guys to stay healthy. But this guy right here, Tyrese Maxey, needs to bounce back, be healthy, get that hand right, and go out there and play like an all-star this next season. Now, speaking of Paul George, okay, I just want to revisit this for 1 second because Hater Central posted this, which is funny. But the Paul George swaps continue to look worse and worse, right? The Paul George signing with the Sixers, fine. But how about this trade where the LA Clippers with Doc Rivers had SGA on a silver platter, and Doc Rivers did not play young guys and decided that SGA shouldn't even be in the rotation. They trade SGA and all of these first-round picks and pick swaps and Danilo Gallinari to get Paul George. I mean, that has to be one of the worst trades ever, right? We've talked about several trades on this channel, but revisionist history says this might be the worst. I mean, that is just crazy. Look at what the Thunder are doing. Sam Presti wins Executive of the Year. Like I said, I'm happy for the Thunder, but I'm also mad because they took the Sixers strategy and amplified it and never got in trouble. But man, I mean, that's crazy. And it just goes to show again how Sixer fans are not that crazy because Doc Rivers came to Philly and did the same exact thing. Blew leads, would not play young guys. And he was really one of the main reasons that the Clippers gave up SGA so early, which is nuts. A lot of people don't remember that he was with the Clippers. Now, speaking of Paul George, shout out to my guy Jacob Moreno over at Sixers Country. He interviewed Paul George, and this is what Paul George said about the Sixers fan base. Quote, "I'm in Philly for hopefully 4 years." Well, I don't know about that. My first impression is that the passion is real. They support their teams. They love their sports. It's authentic. It's not just I'm going to show up because it's a basketball event. They're going to show up to really root on their team and give that competitive advantage. Yeah, and part of that is to hold you accountable as well. So when the fans are showing up with 10-day contracts and G League guys playing, it's very frustrating. But almost feels like this might have been a shot at LA, you know, where all the celebrities go. And the Clippers are the B team anyway, but, you know, people just show up. And that's what people don't realize about Philly. Like they say the fans are mean and this and that, but the fans really do care. They want to win so freaking bad. And I think when people think about the Sixers right now, like, sure, overall, just from a mentality standpoint and a team building strategy standpoint, if you can get all these guys healthy, yeah, you have a really good chance to compete. But I think the Sixers fans kind of have trauma in a way, and they're like, yeah, we're just tired of believing that. You know, show us different. Show us some results. So you want to be here for 4 years, you better wake up, PG. And he also commented on his podcast and the criticism. He says, you don't care what people have to say at the end of the day. When I started, I knew there was going to be backlash. I knew there was going to be people who had things to say about it. He's an athlete. He should be in the gym 24 hours out of the day. To be honest, it's therapeutic. I don't think he should be in the gym 24 hours a day, but I do think he shouldn't come out 2/3 of the way through the season and then admit that he wasn't in shape and he wasn't trying because he did his podcast and then quit his podcast just for the next day, Joel Embiid to get ruled out the rest of the season and then to look like just so silly and look like a fool. You know what I mean? And not to play the fans out to be that way. So you could do your podcast, but you better work 10 times harder in the gym this offseason. It kind of hit me the other day. Paul George is now 35, which is like, wow. Joel Embiid is 31. So you want to get your body right. This team wants to win. PG, you better step up if you want any chance of winning a championship. And the podcast, let that be on the side, man. These Sixers fans are going to hold you accountable, and they want to win. They want to win badly. Lastly, Paul George gives some praise to Justin Edwards, his growth late in the season. Quote, Justin Edwards has been very impressive. What's most impressive is he was the number one talent coming out of high school and he goes undrafted. You see the talent and how many teams overlooked him and passed him up. Now he emerges as one of the best players to come out of the draft class. And you know what that is, though? That's hard work. That's hard work. That's being in the gym and showing that dedication. And even if you're not in a good situation, even if you're in a bad spot, you find a way to overcome that and work your tail off. And when you have that opportunity, you strike. I'm very high on Justin Edwards. I can't wait to see what happens. Look, the Sixers are running this thing back, whether we like it or not. Let's hope they get that top draft pick, and let's hope they have a better outcome this season. If not, things are going to turn pretty quickly. Give me your thoughts down below. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Sixer Nation, I love you guys, man. Enjoy, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.